All right, what's going on, guys? Farzi and Vasugan here with you for another episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Here we go. Chiefs winners today, 23-14 over the Houston Texans. And do you know what that means, folks? Do you know what that means? That means the Chiefs are going to their not first, not second, not third, not fourth, not fifth, not sixth, their seventh straight AFC Championship game. 7 years in a row, the Chiefs are going to play in the AFC Championship game, aka the Arrowhead Invitational, which was on hiatus last year in Kansas City. The Arrowhead Invitational took place in Baltimore last year, and it's coming straight back to Kansas City. And the visiting team will either be the Baltimore Ravens or the Buffalo Bills. We will find out in roughly 27-ish hours who that is. What a game! What a game! A lot of things to talk about here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. I will post a link momentarily for you guys to call in because I've got a lot of thoughts and I know you guys have a lot of thoughts. There's a lot to go over here in this one. Sam says, what was with the BS safety crap? The Chiefs said, to hell with everyone who took the over. They said, we're taking the under, baby. That is what they said. I love when broadcasters bring that up. They're like, well, there are some people who care about that. Yeah, there are a lot of people who give a shit about that, me included. So I got fucked over, just like some of you guys right there. Boy, yeah, those refs today, man, I can't believe the refs. They made Fairbairn, they made him miss a field goal, an extra point. The block in the end, yeah, boy, those refs really did a lot in this game. Oh, boy, yeah, let's blame the refs all day long. Isn't that such a fun narrative? I never get tired of saying that, by the way. That's funny. That is funny. Hey, like I said, AFC Championship game coming back to Kansas City. It is taking place next Sunday, 5:30 p.m. Central Time. If you want to attend the game, you can do so by getting your tickets at SeatGeek.com. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your AFC Championship tickets. Seats are available right now. Go look. It's right there. I was just looking a minute ago, and those are pretty damn expensive. You know what you can do about that? You can save $20 if you use my promo code Farzine. That is for new customers only. So go to SeatGeek.com, get your AFC Championship tickets, and if you're a new customer, put in my promo code Farzine to save you $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. All right, enough of that. Let's get on with the show here. I am going to go ahead and post the link for you guys to call in. It is right there. There it is. Let me pin it on my end. It is pinned on Facebook. Sorry, I don't know how to do it on YouTube. A majority of the listeners are on Facebook, so hopefully everyone can see the Chanel blocking again. Like, that's insanity. The dude just has a knack for getting to the football the way he does. But again, the refs. I've got the Lions game. Well, that hasn't started yet, but I have it on my phone right here on the side. Thank you, YouTube TV. Boy, I want to get into this game here because the offense didn't play particularly well like I thought they would. But they still did a lot of good things in this football game, enough to win you. Patrick Mahomes, 16 of 25, 177 passing against a very good Texans defense. And the Texans did a better job getting to Mahomes in this game, getting 3 sacks on him. CJ Stroud was sacked 4 more times than that, or 5 more times rather. And you look at the offensive line, they definitely had some struggles in this game that definitely need to be adjusted and improved upon when they play the Ravens or the Bills, whoever that is, because both defenses will certainly take advantage of those woes. I thought this was Joe Thuney's worst game at left tackle. He had some really, really good moments and some really, really bad moments at left tackle. So is this something where the Chiefs reconsider their lineup going into next week with Humphreys maybe playing at left tackle and maybe shift Thuney back to guard? I don't know. I do think that idea is on the table for sure. That certainly is something they will consider. When you look at Travis Kelce, 7 catches, 117 yards in this game. Do you know when was the last time Kelce had, or how many games Kelce had 100 receiving yards this year? Just once. And that was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a game that went into overtime. I said this before, guys. And I'll say it again, because a lot of people want to remind you that Kelce is old and he's washed up. He sure as hell did not look old and washed up during that 49-yard catch and run play. In fact, he did not look old and washed up in this game at all. So for all the people who want to talk about old and washed up, well, then what does it say about those Texans defenders that couldn't take Kelce down on that 49-yard catch and run play? What does that tell you? Kelce had a monster game once again. And by the way, Kelce now owns another postseason record, surpassing Jerry Rice again. He already surpassed Jerry Rice for most receptions in postseason history. He now surpassed Jerry Rice and solely owns the record for most 100-yard receiving games in the playoffs. That is the type of run Travis Kelce's had in the postseason. And I'll never forget, man, all those people who said that Kelce was going to get double teamed a lot when Tyreek Hill. No. In fact, all that's done is help Kelce get more of those stats because Tyreek Hill is no longer on the field. By the way, the wide receiver position, kind of interesting today because when you look at Mahomes, he only completed a pass to 4 different players. Only one wide receiver caught a pass today, and that was Xavier Worthy. DeAndre Hopkins was only targeted once all game long. Hollywood Brown was targeted twice. Both of them were in the first half. Hopkins and Brown weren't targeted once in the second half. They didn't catch a ball once in this game. And the Chiefs still won by 2 scores. In fact, I want to go to the team stats here because the Texans had 4 more first downs than Kansas City. They ran 15 more plays than Kansas City. They had more than 100 yards in this game. They had a way better third down efficiency rate than the Chiefs did in this game. They also won the time of possession battle, and the Chiefs still won by 2 possessions. And the Chiefs, they gave them a gimme 2 points in the end there because Ariza was just trying to let the clock go out. So this Chiefs team, I guess they were outplayed statistically in a lot of areas. Yeah, you could say that. That is statistically correct. They still won by 2 scores. They still won by 2 scores at that time. Why the safety? Just to not let them get an easy possession because you're punting from your own end zone. You just waste some time. He was running around in the end zone there. So you took some time off the clock, and then when you kicked it off after the safety, they were starting deep in their own territory, and at that point, it was a lost cause. They weren't going to do anything from that point, so that's why they took the safety. For a lot of people asking, I know, a lot of you guys bet on the game and took the over. I know, I did too. I do want to go to the defense. Up and down game defensively. Second half, the start of the second half, very tough to watch, especially with the way the Texans went about business there on a 15-play, 82-yard drive, chewing up 10 minutes and 24 seconds of the clock. But they missed the PAT right there, and from that point on, the Texans just struggled immensely in this game. George Karlaftis, that dude was a truck constantly running over C.J. Stroud in this one. Not 1, not 2, but 3 sacks. 3 sacks from George Karlaftis, and he was not the only one getting in there. Chris Jones got a sack. That is Chris Jones' first time sacking someone not named Joe Burrow in the playoffs. And for the longest time, it was a big deal that Chris Jones was not getting a playoff sack. FAU got a sack. Listen, a lot of people have been criticizing FAU for his slow progression, including yours truly. He certainly stepped up in this game against a very good offense. Who else got a sack in this? Shamari Connor on a cornerback blitz. Nick Bolton didn't get a sack, but Manny forced the Stroud to overthrow one of the receivers. I think it was Mitchie who was trying to come in with that one-handed grab. Charles Omenihu. I said this at halftime, but I'll say it again right now. Turk Warren, by the way, also got a sack. The last time Charles Omenihu played a playoff game, unfortunately, was not Super Bowl 58 because he got hurt in the AFC Championship game against the Ravens. But before his injury, Charles Omenihu, what did he do in that game? He got a strip sack on Lamar Jackson. He got a strip sack in this game today against the Texans. 2 games in a row, 2 playoff games in a row. Charles Omenihu has gotten a strip sack. When this guy needs to come through for you, he absolutely will do it. That's what I love about this football team. It's almost like Oprah. Like, you get a sack and you get a sack. A lot of players on this defense got a sack. 8 sacks in this game today. 8 sacks. The Chiefs defense got more sacks in this game than the Chiefs have gone to consecutive AFC Championship games. That's how impressive it was for the defense. It wasn't perfect, far from perfect, but they figured it out in the second half and held the Texans to 12 points plus the 2 gimmies in the end there. People are already waiting on hold to get on the line here, so I'm going to start going to a couple of calls here. If you guys want to get in on the fun, call in on the show, the link is right there. Click on the link, put in your name, turn on your audio, your video. Let's chat it up. Hitting leadoff, this gentleman all the way overseas right now, serving our great country. Thanks to everything he does. Let's go to Michael, kicking things off here on the podcast. Michael, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm great, man. Nothing like watching a football game at midnight.
It was worth it. It was certainly worth it.
Absolutely, man. What a game. That throw by Mahomes to Kelsey was just pure magic Mahomes moment right there.
Yes.
Say what you want about some of those calls. Yeah, you can replays, of course, are going to show you everything. But in the heat of the moment, the refs have to make a decision. And if something looks like something, they're going to call it 99% of the time. Everyone's going to whine and complain about the replays, this, replay that. But like, in the heat of the moment like that, let me see somebody else be an NFL referee and try to determine how to do things. Like,
exactly.
But then at the end of the day, the Texans kept it close for majority of the time. They were getting penalized. So like, kudos to them until the end, when I don't know what the heck happened to the defense, but they just went ballistic. George Kalafdis, 3 sacks, everybody else getting sacks. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next game. I'm hoping Buffalo and Baltimore just beat the crap out of each other, and they're just too tired to even care about the next game, because it was a beautiful performance.
Michael, are you a Star Wars fan by chance?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you saw this, but I think someone, it wasn't a Chiefs fan, it was a Chiefs hater who put a meme where they show the Empire just kind of sitting in his throne in the background, and it's Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader fighting. And for Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, they put Bills and Ravens. And the Chiefs just in the background watching. I thought that was funny. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, hopefully they wear each other out.
And then I'm glad Justin Reed is okay. So watching him help blow up that special teams play at the end with another block. Like, our special teams has just been absolutely insane this year. Just constantly doing crazy things. Rice, I'm sorry, I'm getting my receivers mixed up. Sorry. Worthy with that beautiful catch.
Yeah.
Hollywood, honestly, I'm glad it wasn't called a catch, because honestly, if they had called it a catch, they would have been like a catch fumble. So like, I thought it was an okay call, but what a play by him to at least go up for it. That was insane. But it's like you said, like, not many receivers were targeted. They better hope that we don't start targeting our other receivers, because if the rest of our guys get hot in the next game, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm with you, Michael. Well, Michael, I was going to move on, but is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, man, just a shout out to all my fellow service members. There's a lot of us overseas. We got the, I don't know if they're still here, but I know we had a Kansas National Guard unit out here, and they're all sporting their Chiefs gear, having a great time, watching the games. So it's definitely been an experience out here. It's been a ride, and hopefully we can keep it going. All
right. Well, Michael, I appreciate it. Thank you once again for what you do for our great country, the sacrifices you make, including staying up at midnight to catch this football game. Thank you again. I appreciate you calling in. You've been calling in a lot, so I definitely appreciate that. And stay safe out there. And let's get another win. Let's get another win for everyone to enjoy. Chris has been waiting patiently. Chris, you're on the Chiefs Zone podcast. How are you, sir?
Doing good. How you doing, my friend?
Good, sir. Talk to me. What's on your mind?
Not a whole lot, brother. Just got done watching the game, and overall, I was kind of worried at the beginning. I mean, let's face it, we didn't play our best ball, that first half. We took an early lead. I was really shocked how that opening drive went. On the opening kickoff, we had that great return. Could have capitalized and scored a touchdown. Unfortunately, had to settle for a field goal. But, when it came down to it at the very end, we found a way, like great teams always do, and Patrick Mahomes being the great quarterback he is, we found a way to get the win. And that's all I cared about at the very end, is getting the win and getting back to a 7th straight AFC championship.
Yeah, Andy Reid's really the same way. I know the wins this year have not been pretty. I know people want to make a big deal that the Chiefs have not surpassed or have gone beyond 30 points this year in a game, but they haven't had to. At the end of the day, you get the W. That's all that matters. And the Chiefs had 15 of those in the regular season, and they got one in the playoffs. And as you said, 7th straight AFC Championship appearance.
Absolutely. And, I'm going to be paying close attention to the game tomorrow between Baltimore and Buffalo. It's going to be one hell of a dogfight. Tomorrow night. And like the gentleman said that called in before me, I hope they just beat the crap out of one another, because when it comes down to it, it's going to be very tough to beat us at Arrowhead. I mean, Arrowhead, it's a magical place. Our fans are electric. And when it comes down to it, I think our guys are going to be ready. And like he said, if we can get our receivers hot, watch out, because either team is going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, 100%. And I know Michael mentioned it previously. You alluded to it. No one else caught a pass at the wide receiver position except for Worthy. Hollywood and Hopkins not targeted in the second half. They were only targeted 3 times combined. So yeah, that definitely needs to improve in the next game.
Absolutely. And not only that, but like you iterated, as you did too, the start of that second half, Houston ate up 11 minutes, a little over 11 minutes of that clock, keeping their offense on the field. Our defense definitely struggled, but man, George Karlaftis is an absolute beast. Like you said, 3 sacks alone just on his part.
Yeah. Insanity. Chris, is there anything else you had to add to anything you've said so far?
I just got to say one more thing. You can doubt the Chiefs. You can dislike the Chiefs. You can disrespect the Chiefs. But damn it, you're going to have to deal with the Chiefs, because we are heading back to the AFC Championship, baby.
I love it. That's good. I can never remember the order. Disrespect, disregard, that. I can never remember the order. But Chris, I appreciate your call. Thank you so much. Let's keep the train rolling. Why not? Steve, you're waiting patiently. You're on the Chiefs Zone podcast. What's going on, sir?
Not too much. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to go back to a 7th consecutive AFC Championship game, and it's wild. I mean, we're living in Mahomes' country, right? And it's pretty sweet. And they did come off a bit sloppy, and when Aikman, whenever he was kind of talking about, there's the team with the bye is kind of rusty, but they got to figure it out. And you know what, being undefeated at Arrowhead, I mean, that's a good thing. And either it's going to be Baltimore or Buffalo, and it's we all know this. Hopefully, they beat the tar out of each other tomorrow, and it's going to be a great game next week. We know this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, one day rest is just one day, but I think when you're the number 1 seed, it looks like Steve disconnected there. Steve, I'll put you back on if you reconnect. I don't know what's going on with your video there, but that's the whole thing right there. Like, one day's one day, but when you had that 24-day break, unfortunately, and this was mentioned earlier, I think by Michael there, with Justin Reed and the injury there, that was kind of a scary moment. Thankfully, he was okay, because they really, really need him. No injuries out of this one. No major injuries, at least. I mean, I assume they'll look at Brian Cook and Justin Reed, the 2 safeties who both got hurt in this game, and just kind of monitor their progress as the week goes on. But doesn't seem like anyone's good. I mean, they both came back and finished the game, so that's the good news. Let me see if Andy Reid commented on any of that in his press conference. I think he just started the press conference, so we'll monitor that as the podcast goes along here. Yeah, he just started the press conference, so we'll hear from Andy Reid shortly and read some of the comments out there. But I mean, it seems like everyone's going to be available for the AFC Championship game. I mean, you have the defense is at full strength. The offense, who's the only player they're missing? Rashee Rice, and McCole Hardman maybe comes back. We'll see what they do for the corresponding move. Let me just quickly look at the Chiefs and their 53-man roster quickly to see who they have. Maybe Carson Steele gets cut. Ethan Driscoll. I mean, that guy's been inactive for almost the entire season. I want to say Nico Remigio, but I have a feeling they want to keep him at kick returner. Got to hold on to the ball. He's had that issue in the preseason, but other than that, he's looked really well as a returner. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the Chiefs are going to do for the potential corresponding move. I'm just looking at the offense there. I don't think they're going to demote anyone on defense. I mean, unless they want to do Uche, who they've made inactive for a lot of games this year, but despite trading him, which I don't get, but we'll see what they do on that front later on. Hey, a lot of great calls so far today. If you guys want to get in on the fun and call in, I will post the link right here again. And Steve, if you're still out there listening, he just commented, said, sorry, my laptop died. Yeah, feel free to call in. I'll put you back on. For now, let's go to Bob. He's been waiting for a while. Bob, give us the energy, brother. What's on your mind? Oh, Bob, you're on mute.
What's
Bob?
up, Bars?
There you go. What's going on, sir?
What a win, man. What a win.
Yes.
I thought it took the offense a little time to get going there a little bit. But, I'm pretty happy with what they put out, being off for 24 days. I'm a little concerned about our running back situation. Looks like Hunt's the number one guy going into this thing. And, man, what hats off to the defense today, man. They got down, baby. I mean, I can't even remember how many plays they all made, man. Them guys got down. They got nasty today. I mean, that Stroud, I always thought he was a better quarterback than what he's showing late in the season. I mean, that dude didn't play very well. And, that ballsy call that their coach put on at 4th and 1, man, that killed their incentive to go on. That's like sticking a sword in them when they didn't make that. And then giving the ball back to Patty with what I think there was like 5 or 6 minutes on the clock.
Yeah.
I mean, or 7 minutes, something like that, and late. And they went 4 and out, or 3 and out, but still, man, it's a chance, They got the ball back, and then our defense just did some plowing today, man. Them guys, the big guys, that front seven got down today.
Yeah. That is their strength right there. Big strength.
Absolutely. It was awesome, man. I was happy to see that 22 had some great plays. Connor showed up again today. Man, the hats off to him, man. I think we're banged up a little bit of safety, but they got some time to heal here. This next ball game is going to be huge, man. I mean, it's probably going to be better than some Super Bowls we watched.
I agree.
Yeah, this is going to be big time. I'm going to have to get me a strong drink to get through that one, man. But it's exciting as hell this time of year, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we sat here and we've dialogued and cussed and discussed the whole way through, and it's been a blast. But man, these next 2 ball games are just going to be unreal. I'm so excited about it, and I'll have to go take my heart drug medicine here in a little bit. Keep me in check for next week. So hey, I'll sit back and enjoy the show. You do an awesome job every time. You see the hat that came from you? And
yes, that's right.
Hey, it says champions up there, man. The champions. So we're gonna do it again, brother. So
all right.
Have a good evening, and thanks for putting on the show.
All right, appreciate you, Bob. Thank you so much for calling and appreciate it. Yeah, I just think at the end of the day, when you look at this dynasty and look, I mean, they're playing against a lot of great teams. Had to deal with the Patriots when Brady was there, and then the Bengals kind of got hot. Obviously, got the best of the Chiefs one time. The Chiefs were able to avenge that loss. Buffalo's always been in the mix. Baltimore's always been in the mix. And obviously, the winner of this game is going to advance here, which is crazy because I think there's always been a lot of criticism around both Allen and Lamar and how, those guys seem to have a lot of their postseasons cut short. The Ravens, they went to the AFC Championship game last year, but it just felt like, people thought the Ravens, that was their year because they were blowing teams. Remember last year's narrative, how, teams that were blowing teams out, and that's why the Chiefs weren't going to win and they were going to be one and done and whatever. Well, the 4 of the 5 teams that finished in the top 5 in point differential last year, the Chiefs beat them last year. And I don't know exactly the order, but they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Ravens, they beat the 49ers, and they beat the Bills. The 4 of those 5 were in the top 5 in point differential, which means they had been blowing a lot of teams out. And the Chiefs took care of business. And the reason I make a big deal about that, Because look at the Texans last week. They absolutely kicked the Chargers' ass last week. I mean, the Chargers got off to a good start, and you kind of wondered, boy, the Texans looking really sloppy, but they got going in that second half, and they looked impossible to stop. The Chargers had no answer, and the one time the Chargers had something good happen to them, that touchdown, they had something bad happen right away with that blocked field goal and the kicker playing volleyball with it, thinking it was going to be considered like an incomplete pass. That was kind of funny to watch, but my point is that Texans team just had everything going their way in that second half last week. And you look at this game, the Texans only put up 12 points plus the 2 gimme points in the end, which is what the Chargers had last week. So this Chiefs team, they really were ready for the Texans. The only thing you can really nitpick as far as the Chiefs defense was that 10-minute drive right there. I mean, that was a great drive by Houston, but considering you're on the road at Arrowhead, and I get keeping Mahomes on the sideline, but I kind of feel like in a way, showing up that much time when you know you're playing at Arrowhead, I don't know if it's really the most wisest move. If you're up by 1 possession and you're doing it to extend the lead to 14 or to 10, yeah, then I think that's a great idea. But when you're trailing and trying to tie it, which they couldn't even tie it because of the PAT miss there, I don't know. I just think that the 10-minute drive, you kind of did yourself a disservice. I know Chris was saying that, alluding to that a little bit earlier. So just kind of went in Kansas City's direction there. By the way, let me address one more thing. The whole running back thing. I actually don't disagree with what the Chiefs are doing, letting Pacheco start these games and get a majority of the carries in the first half, because I like the way they're using Kareem Hunt. They bring him in for those short yardage situations. He definitely delivers on those. Came through on a big 4th down conversion in this game. But I think in general, like Kareem Hunt, I think is more better for the second half. Let him just kind of take the game away if the Chiefs have the lead. And listen, obviously you can play these things by ear. You don't have to go through a specific script. You kind of let things play out and see what's working, what's not. But Kareem Hunt came through with a couple of big runs and, just keep running the football. I kind of thought it was odd that they moved away from Kareem Hunt in the second half at one point when he had a couple of big runs there. I'm not saying keep running over and over and over again. You don't want to run the guy to the ground, but it's not like he's carrying the ball 20 times a game like he was earlier in the year when almost everyone else, all the key players were injured. So let Kareem cook a little bit. Steve is back on here. Steve, welcome back to the podcast, sir.
Yeah,
go ahead and finish your thought.
Thank you for putting me back on. I wanted to get on, and I usually when I do my own podcast, I make sure I'm plugged in. So
it happens.
It happens. So yeah. But yeah, if you compare this to 5 years ago, when you're down 24-0, I remember I watched that game with one of my buddies, actually my boss, and I said, I'll kind of take it easy here. Our Bombers here won in Canada. I'm good. And then the stress level, right? And then there was a Sorensen stop and all this. And, that's a game I think if you take the 2, we'll remember for a much longer time. So, I mean, if you compare the 2, this was a lot less stress-free.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely have to overcome a massive deficit. So that was nice.
It was, right. And again, this team isn't pretty, but at the end of the day, they're getting it done. And in today's NFL, the theory is if you don't score more than 30 points, well, you're a bad team. Well, no, actually, your record is what it is, and that's what Bill Parcells always used to say, right? So things are, 7 consecutive championship games. I mean, this is nuts. Yeah. This is historical stuff. They said with the Patriots, this will never happen again. Well, Mahomes and Reed and Kelsey are rewriting history once again. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Reed with his 300th win. Patrick Mahomes has now tied Joe Montana for the second most wins. Like the things the Chiefs are doing. Kelsey obviously doing his things with the history books. You're just never going to see anything like this again in Chiefs history. You're just not. No, you won't, right? And I mean, it's just it is historical. And I had Vaughn Booker, a former Chief, on my show yesterday, and he just said he still loves that atmosphere that Arrowhead brings, and there is that factor. And when I was there a year ago, I just couldn't believe it, right? Again. We make noise up here in the north of Canada, but it was something else I've never quite been able to even comprehend still to this day. Yeah. So it's good.
All right, Steve, any other thoughts you wanted to get out there?
I think we're good. But yeah, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I appreciate calling in, Steve. Thank you again, and keep repping up north there. Let's go to Daniel. He's been waiting very patiently. Daniel, welcome into the Chiefs Zone podcast, sir. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. I'm already counting next year. But hey, Andy Reid is now 5-1 in the playoffs after a bye since 2013.
Yeah,
when he was hired with the Chiefs. So nobody's really was talking about that, but I mean that just shows you how much of great coaching he puts in the preparation that he's had for this season. I agree with you. I like Kareem Hunt going in at the end of the game. He'll be fresh. He might even have a little more ball security than Pacheco has when it comes to they're going to be trying to strip that ball a lot, which I saw a lot of the corners doing that tonight. I'm not sure if you noticed, but McDuffie was trying to rip that ball out. And, Watson, I'm glad McDuffie wasn't too injured. He came back really good and made an impact in that game.
Yeah, he really did. I was a little nervous when he was out there, but they showed him kind of just hopping and just moving around. He seemed okay, and he came back immediately, and that was good because he played a great game today.
Yeah, I was hoping Brown would have caught that ball at the in the start after that missed field goal. As a UCLA fan, I kind of seen that kicker missed a lot of field goals back when he played in college, so I know he was as clutch. I'm hoping that Brown and Hopkins actually get more in the offense next week. Because I think we're definitely gonna need them no matter who we play, and Nick Bolton's gonna have to spy, because if CJ Stroud could do that on 3rd down and long, these other two quarterbacks.
Well, Daniel, let me, and maybe you know the answer here because I've said this a lot lately. Who's the only 100-yard rusher against Kansas City this year?
That'd be wasn't that was Stroud, if I'm mistaken? Wasn't it? Or not Stroud? Was it Allen?
No, it was Lamar Jackson. Very first game of the NFL season.
Right.
Lamar was the only 100-yard rusher on Kansas City. Not a single running back has rushed for 100 yards against Kansas City. Only Lamar Jackson. And you're right. I was really surprised with Kansas City's defense. That's the only, outside of that drive, that's the only other thing. I thought they kind of got better about it. They just let Stroud run. And I said last week, he's going to do it because he kept doing it to the Chargers. And they have a really good defense.
Right. I mean, the Texans pulled a shocker. I mean, I didn't think they were going to win last week just because they didn't have Dell or Diggs. And it showed right there. Collins was the only guy other than Schultz. They really didn't have anything, but yeah, the defense is gonna need, because I think Buffalo might have a chance to win tomorrow against Lamar, against that Baltimore defense. At least that's what I'm thinking. But I don't care who we play. You can play either one. The likely by the toe or get a revenge for the quote unquote only real loss we had all year against Buffalo. So they started off rusty. I kind of figured that. Friends a lot were like, man, 24 days off. It doesn't matter. We had 20, 21, 22 days off when we went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was 21 days.
Yeah, I didn't like the outcome of that Super Bowl, but hey, either way, we still got there. But anyways, thanks for doing the show. Appreciate it as always. And you guys have a good day.
All right. Appreciate you, Daniel. Thanks for calling in. You've been one of the more frequent callers as well. So definitely appreciate you, as well as all the frequent callers. So definitely a big thanks to everyone who makes the podcast part of your day and also taking the time to call in as well. By the way, a couple of people have been asking me as the podcast has gone along, and I haven't had a chance to address a lot of the comments here. So I do apologize for that. But I've seen this question as the night's gone on. A lot of people are asking, do we want to play Lamar or Josh? Me personally, first of all, I don't believe in easier teams in the AFC Championship or Super Bowl. I just don't believe in that stuff. I've gone over this before, so I'm not going to rehash all of that. But as far as who do I want to play, I would rather see the Chiefs play the Bills, only because I want to see the Chiefs avenge that loss. But if I'm betting money on tomorrow night's game, I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. I just think they're the better team. And not because that the Ravens blew them out last time. Listen, that was very early in the season. They're both much different football teams. Baltimore's defense is a lot better. Josh Allen doing a lot. I think James Cook not really getting a lot of the credit he truly deserves out there for what he's doing. But I'm going with the Ravens because I just think they have more firepower Even without Zay Flowers, I mean, you still see Lamar do all kinds of things. And they could have scored more last week, but they didn't, because who did John Harbaugh once coach under? Oh, that's right, Andy Reid. And you see Andy Reid not putting things on film that he doesn't need to put on film. I mean, and that's part of the reason why you don't see the Chiefs score as much. And again, I know it's a big deal seeing the Chiefs get 31 or more points, but they just don't do that. So I would say, I just think the Chiefs are going to play the Ravens. I want it to be the Bills. Not that I think they're easier. I don't believe in easier teams. If I had to bet money on it, I think it's the Ravens. I would rather it be the Bills, though. Melody, my Farscast co-host, she is on the podcast. Melody, what's going on?
I mean, I'm with you. I want a chance to kick the Bills' ass, in the postseason like we have. But at the same time, I think the Ravens are going to do it before we get to.
Yeah.
It's not us this year, but I would love to avenge that. But I just want to say that, there's disappointing calls, there's disappointing plays, but we showed up on the fourth quarter. That was magical, and we've played like champs. And I'm just so glad. Whew, it was such a great game.
Yeah, you and I were texting, and I was like, the defense. And then 2 seconds later, they get all these sacks. I'm like, okay, never mind. Thank God.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm like, Taylor Swift's boyfriend. And then he scores. I'm just like, this is great. This is great. This is how it should be. I wanted them to shut them down in the fourth quarter, and they did. And they just played like champs, I'm so happy.
Yeah, they definitely played well. I apologize. I was reading a comment, and I just want to confirm. I guess something's going on at Arrowhead right now. Something not so positive. Let me just verify all of that. But yeah, they definitely played much better in the second half. Okay, I am reading a lot of comments online. Apparently, there's heavy police and fire truck presence at the stadium in gates 6 and 7. I'll be honest, I don't know where 6 and 7 are, but I'm seeing that pointed out there. So if you're out there, please be safe. Whatever's going on out there. Hopefully nothing too serious. But yeah, I mean, I just think at the end of the day, the Chiefs they certainly played their better game in the second half. That's kind of how they have been. And I said this at halftime. Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, they're great at making these adjustments. Still could have played better, certainly. But when you go out there and you win, what was the score? 23-12 plus the 2 gimme points that I like to say. It was a great game. I mean, you're not look at the Texans, how they played last week, destroying the Chargers. Couldn't do that today.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, like, everybody has our number. I mean, they are studying, they are doing their very best against the Chiefs, and we just always find a way to just beat them and beat the enemy. And thank you, refs. Like, that's what everybody wants to hear. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, refs. Because the refs were the ones who blocked that field goal. They made him miss another field goal early. Yeah, all on the refs.
Right. I had one friend that sent me a bubble, like a bubble with Mahomes inside of it. But honestly, that when he went out of lines and he like pretended like he was hit or something, that was pretty funny. But a lot of people were putting a lot of hate on there. I don't care about it because I think the more you hate us, the greater we are. So keep it coming. It seems to be lifting us up. And I don't mind being a villain.
That drives the Chiefs, oddly enough. That just does. Right. I mean, I'm sure Brady and if you look at The Last Dance, and I haven't seen all of those episodes, but you kind of get the gist that it's like, they hated being doubted. Like Michael Jordan hated all the doubt that was out there. And they use that as fuel. And now in the social media era where everything's out there, it's hard to get away from all the criticism. They just use that as fuel. So yeah.
Yeah, let's keep it going. I love it. 3 feet. Yes, here we come.
Hell yeah. All right, Melody, I appreciate you. We just did an episode of Farscast this week. That episode was lit, by the way. That was probably the funniest episode we did. So check it out if you haven't done it already. Appreciate you, Melody. Thanks for calling in.
Appreciate you. Bye.
All right, appreciate it. Let's go to Jason.
Yeah, brother. Hey, brother, what's up?
I can't see your face. You're in a dark room.
Hold on, bro. You see my house, though. Yeah, brother. Hey, my wife's turned the TV or the light on.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I can partially see it now. What's going on?
What's up, dog?
Good, man. Talk to me. What's on your mind?
Hey, man, we played a hell of a game today, man. Trav balled out that 22-year, he said, coming back out.
Yeah.
Dude, we had a hell of a game, though, man. Pat didn't play the best for some reason.
I mean, listen, you don't have to. I agree with you. Statistically, not his best game, and I certainly expected to see more out of him. Wide receivers.
That's my wife, brother.
What's going on? But you know, when the opposing team only scores 12 plus it's gimmies, you don't need to do a whole hell of a lot.
Hey, brother, I agree 100%. That's my team. It has been since the 80s, bro. Derek Thomas days, Montana.
Man, it wouldn't have been such a special team to win a championship. And
oh, dude, that'd been awesome.
Yeah. Anything else you want to put out there, Jason?
Hey, man, Chiefs for life, brother.
All right. Appreciate it.
I'd give anything to go to a game one day. Hopefully I can, man.
All right. Yeah, but make it happen. It's a special place to go to. It really is.
Hey, man, I've lost, my kids in the last couple of years, my daughter in 2020, my son in 2022, and they was both longtime Chiefs fans. And I would give anything to ever go to Arrowhead and watch the game.
Yeah. It's a special place. It really is.
But I'll be till the day I die. Breathe Arrowhead, bro.
All right. Well, Jason, I appreciate it. Thanks for calling into the podcast. And appreciate you listening. And let's keep this going. Right now, the lines are open. So if you guys want to chime in, last call to call into the podcast, it is right here. Last time I'll be posting the link tonight. We're going on 41 minutes. The Lions and the Commanders, that game has already kicked off. They're almost 2 minutes into the game. There is an injury on the field. I'll be honest, I'm not paying attention to the game, so I don't know who started with the football. They just went to a break for a timeout, injury timeout. So we'll see how that goes. I'll read some comments because I have not read many of those today. Lions punting already? Oh, okay, wow. I'm glad you said that because I would have, whoever had the ball, I would have assumed they had the ball first. So I'll take your word for it. I think you're talking about CJ Stroud. Yeah, CJ Stroud was dealing with injuries very early on in that game. And nothing dirty, nothing intentional. I mean, the Chiefs were just playing hard, and he was also doing, whatever he needed to do. I felt like CJ Stroud was kind of going into superhero mode a lot in that game, trying to move the chains, doing whatever again, because the Chiefs played great in coverage. I know there were times where Nico Collins would bust through and have a lot of open catches. You saw Schultz and Hutchinson a couple of times as well. That was kind of frustrating because they converted on third down way more than Kansas City did in this game. 10 times, 10 of 17 attempts. So certainly a good third down conversion rate for the Texans in this game. But the Chiefs, they didn't need to play as well. I mean, the Texans, they outgained the Chiefs. They picked up more first downs. They did all of these things better than the Chiefs in this game. They ran more plays than Kansas City. And I think that 10-minute drive played a big factor in that. But they didn't do enough to win this football game. They just didn't. That's the one thing right there. You can go through some other Chiefs games and see similar stats. You can get all those stats. But if you do not score more points, doesn't matter at the end of the day. Oh, you missed the game. Well, hopefully you got a chance to watch it because it is a good game. I know that's the one thing that a lot of people don't like about these Saturday games. And listen, props to you guys that work and aren't able to adjust your schedules. I know that's never a fun thing, but thankfully it was not the last game of the year. And hopefully next week won't be either. Hopefully the Chiefs can keep that going, keep that train going into New Orleans, where they will play in Super Bowl 59, hopefully. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. Rochelle says, I was worried about Mahomes getting sacked a lot. Spags really brought the heat. Yes, he was sacked 3 times in this one. The most he's been sacked in quite some time. When was the last time Mahomes was sacked this many times in a single game? I think you would have to go back a bit. I want to say the Panthers game when he was sacked 5 times. Off the top of my head, that's how far back I would have to go. Let's take a look at that. He was sacked 3 times against the Chargers on that Sunday night football game, the doink from Matthew Wright to win the AFC West. So that's the last time. He was sacked 5 times against the Raiders, sacked 5 times by the Panthers, sacked only twice by the Bills. Sacked 4 times by Denver, 4 times by the Bucks. So yeah, it's been a while since we've seen Mahomes get sacked that many times in a game. Hopefully they can be better about it, because you don't ever want to put your quarterback through that. But the good part is, coming off that 24-day bye, if you will, that's certainly helped Kansas City's key players and their offense not having to go through a Week 18 game and a wild card game. Certainly not. Yeah, the Commanders are they're in Detroit territory right now. It is 1st and 10 at the 37-yard line. So they're moving the ball right now against Detroit's defense. Yeah, I did not see what happened on the first minute where Detroit had to punt, but that's very interesting. Yeah, you don't want to see any injuries on the Detroit defense, because they've been dealing with a lot of that. They were kind of rusty to start off. Nico Remigio had that massive kick return, plus the 15-yard the penalty there from the Texans defender who threw his helmet and then shoved his coach. That was kind of weird. But only Kelsey gets the criticism for that shove, or whatever you want to call it, last year on Kelsey, or on Andy Reid. Well, I guess you could say that. But they figured it out. They put out 23 points, and Harrison Butker came through when you needed it with those 3 field goals. Travis Kelce, monster game for Travis Kelce. That was an awesome game for Travis Kelce. And I said this before. I've been saying it for a long time, ever since the Chiefs got the bye. I think if the Chiefs get the bye, and if they can do it a week before with a week to spare, that's going to help a guy like Travis Kelce, who is 35. Yeah, he's old, but he's certainly not washed up. He came through. Yeah, Melody said best game of the year. Absolutely. He only had one 100-yard receiving game this year, and that was against Tampa Bay, a game that went to overtime. Now, I can't remember if he caught a pass in overtime to get the 100, but didn't need that. Didn't need overtime in this one to get 117. And last year when the Chiefs had that self-imposed bye week against the Chargers in Week 18, because they were locked into the number 3 seed, Kelce went off in the playoffs, and they played 4 playoff games, an extra playoff game, because they had to play in the wild card round, which is not something you see often from Kansas City. So I like the way Travis Kelce played in this one. He was reliable all game long. Hey, I appreciate you, Jerron. I appreciate you calling in. I think I may have said your name incorrectly when you called in. So if I did say that incorrectly, I do apologize. Yeah, I liked FAU. I liked FAU in this game. I thought he played really well. And the thing about him, I know he was a first-round pick. He's a local kid who went to K-State. So I think, there's a lot of pressure on him. But we have seen him step up. I remember when he played in that Week 18 game, thought he played very, very well in that game, actually. But you can't put too much stock into that, because the Chargers, they were banged up all year long, and they had a lot of backups in that game. But in the Super Bowl, when he played against Christian McCaffrey, who last year was the best running back last season in the NFL, FAU had a couple of nice stops in that game, couple of nice run stuffs there. And we've kind of seen flashes of Felix Anudike-Uzomah. I get he doesn't play as much because he's behind on the depth chart, but boy, he got involved in this game. And I'm excited to see the snap count when that comes out tomorrow, to see how many snaps he played. Because it kind of felt like he played more in this game than he had any other game for the Chiefs. Yeah, Chris Jones was getting evaluated on the sidelines there. I don't know if Andy Reid mentioned anything about injuries. Yeah, he said they got through the game without any major injuries. He said there were bumps and bruises, which, totally normal. But yeah, I think Chris Jones will be okay to play in next week's AFC Championship game, aka the Arrowhead Invitational. Daniel, I don't think this is a fair comment, and I'll tell you why. First of all, Joe Mixon didn't surpass 100 yards. Not that, Joe Mixon still played a great game, but they only allowed 12 points, and they put some pressure on Mixon, who, was battling through an ankle injury that he suffered in practice earlier in the week. But, again, like, the Chiefs have not allowed a 100-yard rusher all year long. Like, that is a very difficult thing to do. That is very difficult thing to do, except for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is the only player who rushed for 100 yards. So not a single running back got 100 on the Chiefs this year. There have been some offenses that as a team they ran well, but not a single individual rushed for 100 on Kansas City. In fact, I will say this, Joe Mixon's 88 yards against the Chiefs, that is the most by any running back against Kansas City this year. But again, to hold a running back to 88 yards when you're leading, by the way, for most of the game, and I know the Chiefs got off to a little bit of a slow start, but the defense, they really picked it up and played well. So I think ultimately, I don't have a lot of issues. By the way, Dameon Pierce got involved in this game. He had 4 rushes. That dude has an insanely high yard per carry average, and the Chiefs held him to 2.5 yards per carry. So I do disagree with the comment, Daniel, because I just felt like, and I don't think they played great today. I'll say that right now, but I don't think it's as bad as some people are making it out to be. So this is a defense that's played really well. And I know during that Buffalo game, they got shit for the whole Josh Allen run on that 4th and 2 play where he just trucked a couple of defenders and ran to the end zone. I mean, the defense was gassed out by that point. I'm not saying they should have allowed that, but the defense was getting stops that entire third quarter. The score at halftime in the Bills game was the same going into the fourth quarter. But I don't know, man. I just felt like this was a game that referring to the Buffalo game where the Chiefs had their only true loss. The defense, I thought, played well. It was the offense that didn't score until they were down by multiple possessions. So hopefully they can find a way to be better about that, because I think in terms of the running game, both Buffalo and Baltimore are very good in that category, both with their quarterbacks and their running backs. Both quarterbacks, different types of rushers, both running backs, different style of rushing there, but still very good is my point I'm trying to make there. And the Chiefs have been very good all year long. The Commanders did not score, so the Lions have the ball back. And this has been a very slow-moving game. We're not even 5 minutes into the game. 10:24 left to go in the first quarter. So this has been a very slow-moving game. I know there was an injury earlier on, and I don't know what happened to the Commanders on their last drive, but yeah, it's been a very slow-moving game for the Chiefs in this one here. Yeah, I mean, saving Kelsey's best effort, and not that you should disregard the regular season, but this is kind of, listen, I know in other sports where you play a lot of games like basketball, hockey, baseball, the whole load management thing, especially in basketball. I know this was brought up with LeBron James on his podcast. The whole load management thing is always a big deal. But I think Andy Reid kind of does some of that. Not to say he ever looks ahead, but you have to think of everything, including your next game as well as the future. Because you don't ever want to play your best in the regular season. You want to play your best in the playoffs. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Robert. This was Kelsey's best game in the biggest game of the year up to this point so far for the Chiefs, which of course is the postseason. And going back to yet another AFC Championship game. Charles says we're a complete team. When one portion of the Chiefs struggles, another steps up, then the offense does enough to win. Yeah, I do agree with you. I think that's kind of, and I'd love to see one of those games where both the offense and defense are clicking from start to finish all game long, and you get one of those 31-0, 41-0 type of blowout wins. But we just haven't seen much of that this year from Kansas City, and I don't think you will, because the two teams I'm picking the Chiefs to play are Philadelphia in the Super Bowl, and before that, Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. Regardless who it's going to be, I don't think you're going to get those types of games, and it's always going to be tough. And listen, I know we've broken this game down and gone over all the facets, but the Chiefs still had a 9-point win in this game. Again, consider that includes the gimme points the Chiefs allowed. So 14 points in total for the Texans. They didn't play a great game, especially on the offensive side of the football. And they had a lot of things that they could have utilized. I know they're missing a lot of guys, and that was brought up by Daniel earlier on in the call, and I mentioned all week long the losses of Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. Those are certainly huge, but they still found a way to do some good things in this game, but the Chiefs didn't allow it to happen for a majority of the game. Chuck it to the ref, Stevens, for not allowing a 100-yard running back rush. Yeah, it's always the refs who do those things. And I think in the second half, obviously, that's where you saw the sack party. Timothy, yeah, I'm with you. And even more so, it's like, Carl Loftus came alive, and you started to see the Chiefs utilize their linebackers and their defensive backs more in those blitzes. There, you saw Nick Bolton go in there making that big play, forcing an incompletion there where Stroud could not connect with his receiver, underthrowing a couple of guys. That's Kansas City's bread and butter on defense. That is how they become X factors and create a difference in a football game. That right there. The Lions have scored. Jahmyr Gibbs has scored a touchdown, and the Lions are up with 7:36 to go. If they kick this PAT, it feels like he's been lining up forever. There we go. Now it's 7-0 for the Detroit Lions. I was already celebrating. I think I clocked out. I'm like, yeah, let's get to the studio and let's set up the podcast. That's what I was doing. Yeah, listen, I didn't think the first one was roughing, but I think, in the moment without a replay, I think it's easy. And this is why I've said for so many years, but you guys have told me no. I've said for so many years, let's create a rule, and there's no reason to not allow this. Let's create a rule to where you let teams challenge penalties or missed penalties. Like, there's no reason for that to not be allowed. And I'm for all of sports. I know in some sports they've adjusted certain rules, but the fact that you can't challenge maybe a bad penalty call or a penalty that was missed and should have been called is weird to me. When you have all these 4K cameras, HD TV, QLED, whatever you want to call all these high fancy camera angles and everything, the pylon angles even, and you can't allow coaches to challenge certain things still. But yeah, some of you guys out there want to say it's rigged, yet you keep giving this product ratings and you buy the merchandise and you're not betting on the Chiefs. I mean, if I was fully convinced this was rigged, I'd be betting my entire house on these games. But there's a reason you guys don't do that, because you don't really believe what you're saying. Yeah, the second one, I don't think that was. I mean, you saw a little bit of contact there, and listen, Troy Aikman even said, I can't remember if it was Troy Aikman or their rules expert. I can't remember who it was. It's not Gene. I'm laughing because I remember Mark Sanchez, who works for Fox. He once thought Gene Steratore was working for them. Maybe he watches too much CBS games. I don't know. But I mean, there was some contact there. Wasn't as bad, but referees are going to always throw that. People keep saying it's a quarterback protected league. Yeah, well, I guess Mahomes took advantage of those rules. Maybe other quarterbacks should do the same thing. And plus, like those Texans defenders colliding into each other, I just don't understand players who ever lean in with their helmet. I talked to Bobby Bell about this once on the podcast many years ago. And he told me, it's like, why hit with your head? Hit with your arms and your chest. That's how you're supposed to tackle, but that's not what the defenders want to do. I mean, if your goal is to like get yourself hurt, sure, lean in with your head, but you should never do that, is my point. Yeah, they're always trolling. Bengals are still on a bye. Yeah, they're gonna be on the bye for quite some time. Gonna be on a bye for quite some time. Oh yeah, I got some tweets. People were wishing like bad things on Justin Reed when he had that injury. It's like, oh, that's classy. I don't think the higher ups, the gods, answer to prayers for negativity on another person. And listen, I'm not a very religious guy, but I think I know enough to know that the gods don't ever answer those kinds of prayers. Yeah, I've seen some comments about this all game long. Look, I like Joe Buck. I've never understood the criticism. I know a lot of people in Kansas City I guess their biggest issue with him was the 2014 World Series because he loved on Madison Bumgarner too much. Listen, Madison Bumgarner, I don't know jack shit about baseball, but I knew enough that Bumgarner, he pitched a hell of a series. Like, I mean, shit, she was playing for the Royals in that series. But no, he played a big factor in that series. So why wouldn't you praise how great he played? And by the way, and again, like I said, I don't get the criticism for Joe Buck. There is this worldwide criticism that when fans are watching a game, they always assume Joe Buck is cheering against their team. Joe Buck's Twitter bio many years ago used to say, "I'm rooting against the team you're cheering for," which is funny because that's the criticism he gets. So, for example, and I'm just picking these two teams because they share a stadium, they're in the same city. But the Jets and the Giants, if they ever play a game and Joe Buck's on the mic, Giants fans are going to accuse Joe Buck of cheering for the Jets, and Jets fans are going to accuse him of cheering for the Giants. I just never understood that criticism with Joe Buck. I'm not really a big fan of Troy Aikman. I mean, I'll just leave it at that. I think a lot of people universally have similar opinions about Troy Aikman. Hey, listen, I don't think he's a terrible. I'm just not really a fan of his in particular. I think some people complain a little too much about announcing because as soon as an announcer says one positive thing about the opposing team from a viewer standpoint, or maybe says a negative team about your favorite team, that's when fans are like, "Oh, this guy's a hater." I mean, no, he's just talking about what's happened and all that. Sometimes they give opinions during these games, and obviously you'll see biases. I'm sure Romo and Aikman are always going to be biased towards the Cowboys, but that's just the way it is. What announcer, what sports broadcaster doesn't have a bias for their team? I mean, come on, everyone does it. Everybody. Name one who doesn't. You just mentioned it's what's going to happen next week. Offense and defense explosions. Oh boy. I mean, if that happens, something crazy went wrong on the opposing side. I thought replay assist would allow officials to overturn calls. Yeah, but not every call replay assist can get involved, which again is weird. It's really weird, Charlie. Like certain things, replay assist can step in, and whenever there's a challenge, replay assist is very quick to look at it and inform the referee in their earpiece, like, "Hey, no need to go to the tablet." Remember they used to go into that tent? Kids today will never understand that. The tent was always a lot of fun to see them go into, but they don't do that anymore. It's just a tablet right in front of them, and sometimes they don't even need to go there because the expedited call will come in quicker than that. I know at the press box for a lot of these sporting events, some press boxes will track how long these replays took for challenges. I would imagine we have a record for some short challenges this year. When a QB is a runner, he can't be hit. Well, not entirely true. I mean, I guess it just depends, whenever he goes down. And yeah, as soon as he goes down, sometimes listen, I've seen more egregious hits on Mahomes not get called. But yeah, I mean, that's it. And again, I love that it's the Chiefs that get the favorable calls. Those happen all the time. I mean, people are always bitching and moaning about officiating. It's only a much bigger deal whenever the Chiefs get involved. Oh, look at this comment from Chris. The refs had the best games for the Chiefs tonight. What a bunch of BS. Hey, Chris, how come you're not betting on these games if you're so convinced that the Chiefs are getting all the benefit of all of these calls? And by the way, and if you don't want to bet on the games, then why do you give ratings to the product? If I was certain that in the NFL or the NBA, if I was completely convinced that they rigged games for a specific team, I wouldn't watch. You're obviously convinced that this is rigged for a team. So please tell me, Chris, why do you keep watching the product? I guarantee you're not going to have an answer for that, but I always ask people this question. Why do you not bet on the games? And why do you still watch? And by the way, why do you always predict the Chiefs are going to lose if they always get help from the refs? That I've never understood. Melinda says, I kind of thought the flags came out before the hit. They were both leading with their helmets, and they just happened to mainly. Yeah, they did hit each other, which I remember Dwayne Bowe had like a crazy circus catch one time, and two defenders were trying to lean in with their helmet to hit Dwayne Bowe, and instead they ended up hitting each other, and they both got hurt. It's like, I mean, I'm never going to sit here and say you deserve to be hurt, but you kind of, I mean, what did you expect when you're both leaning in with your helmets and going into each other? It's like, you can't be doing that kind of thing. Oh, I thought you were making a joke about the recent story about their current situation with the city, because that's a thing. Honestly, like sometimes I'll pay attention to what they have to say. Sometimes I'm working on content, posting things, and sometimes I'm talking to people. So I don't hear everything they say. I don't catch it at all times. But yeah, I know that's been out there. Romo is the best. Sean, you might be one of the very few people. This is a hot take from Sean. Listen, I don't have an issue with Romo. A lot of Chiefs fans think Romo hates the Chiefs. That is not true. There are a lot of people out there who think Romo loves the two quarterbacks that Romo loves the most are Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, according to a lot of people out there. But again, everyone kind of hears different things, I guess, which, you know, that's why I don't understand some of the criticism. Yeah, a lot of people talking about Joe Buck in the comments here. You want Tom Brady at Arrow? Well, the game's not on Fox, so that's certainly not happening. By the way, what would happen if the Raiders were to ever, by a big if, a massive if, but what happens if the Raiders were to ever go to an AFC Championship game or the AFC Championship is on CBS. It would not be on Fox. Well, so let's say Super Bowl. Let's say the Super Bowl is on Fox one day, and by some crazy miracle, the Raiders make it. What does Tom Brady do? I mean, I guess you don't need to worry about it because the Raiders will never have that happen. But I suppose that's something you kind of have to be prepared for. We've seen crazier things happen in sports before. Yeah, the Mahomes out of bounds. At first, I thought that was a late hit, but he was in bounds. He was in bounds when he was pushed. When they replayed it. Timothy says WWE's rigged. See, okay, a lot of people say this. WWE is not rigged. It's scripted. There's a massive difference in that. And Timothy, you know that. Because I get a lot of those comments. People are like, oh, don't you watch wrestling? Yes, I do watch wrestling. It's not rigged. It's scripted. The referee that's involved and the participants in those matches, they agree to everything beforehand. They all know what's going to happen. Like, you can't compare the two. You just can't. So you're willing to watch games, give ratings to a product, a rigged product, and buy merchandise just because you love your teams. That's not a good enough reason. Wargasm. That's a great name. Yeah, but that's the purpose of a color commentator. A color commentator is always going to be a former executive coach or a player. That's what a color commentator does. Play-by-play, yeah, play-by-play guys are not players. They're play-by-play guys, as the title of the job says. Oh, you're thinking of Noah Eagle. That's Ian Eagle's son. I think he's one of the better younger announcers that's out there right now. He does all the Saturday night games for NBC for college football, and he did the Netflix game for Chiefs Steelers. I guarantee you that dude is going to be on a primetime game one day in the NFL. He is a really good announcer, and I think he's like 27. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, well, he's in because of his dad." Yeah, I'm sure his dad has certainly helped with connections and all that. I don't doubt that at all. That's kind of how the world works, whether people like it or not. But he is very good at what he does. Really good at what he does. Yeah, I know it's a hypothetical, but I should have said Super Bowl because, I mean, unless Brady ever switches jobs to another network. I got you, Timothy. I know you. Isn't there like a Saturday night main event? I know the UFC's on tonight. I'm going to be checking that out. Boy, what a great night it is for NFL and UFC fans like me. NFL playoffs and a UFC pay-per-view. I know I haven't followed the UFC closely in a while, but my God, they deal with a lot of card changes lately. Schultz, when that reporter said wrestling was fake and he slapped the crap out, I have no idea what are you talking about? Hold on. What is the wrestler? Are you thinking of Jordan Schultz? Jordan Schultz is the only reporter I can think of, unless you're talking about something. No, I have no idea what you're talking about. But that is kind of a funny little story there. Someone slapped someone. All of these grown men crying on here about the refs winning games for the Chiefs is hilarious. Crybaby. Yeah, exactly. Like, why are you listening to a podcast about a rigged product, allegedly? Like, again, if I knew something was rigged, the last thing I'd be doing would be watching the games and listening to any podcast about said rigged sport. Like, come on. And like that commenter earlier who had that glorious name, I already forgot what it is. Like, who watches a game because they love their team but it's rigged? Come on, that's not a good enough reason. That is not a good enough reason. By the way, for those of you who are still here on the live stream, a majority of you are on Facebook. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. I posted the link right there, so you guys should be able to get it. Try to build up the YouTube following. That's the one that's kind of newer, and I have the least followers on. Oh, a fumble by the Lions. Oh, a strip sack. Look at that. Oh, Jared Goff is not happy. Nope. I kind of felt like as the week went on, this Chiefs game was going to be a multiple possession game, which it ended up being. But I feel like the other three games are all going to come down to the wire. I really do. I'm predicting a close game for all of the other three. So, and that game tomorrow night, Bob called in and said it. He said that's going to be probably a better game than a lot of Super Bowls. I think that's going to be the best game this entire postseason. I don't know if the ESPYs are going to bring back best game. I don't know why they took that award away. That's like obviously the individual best athletes, that's something you look forward to. And then the best game. How do you take that award away? I don't understand. I mean, the Chiefs would have won that one too, but if they were to bring that award back, I would guess that they would that this game, Ravens Bills, would be in contention for it. I think it'd be very disappointing if Ravens Bills was not the best game this weekend. Like, if that game is a blowout, I think the NFL would be disappointed. They put this as their last game for the weekend for a reason. This is their main event of the divisional round weekend. All right, guys, we covered a lot of ground here. Obviously, we'll be waiting to see who the Chiefs play next Sunday for the AFC Invitational, as a lot of us like to call it now. But the Chiefs, they are winners 23-14, awaiting the winner of tomorrow's game between Baltimore and Buffalo. As soon as that game goes final, we will go live on the podcast and talk about that game, give you guys my thoughts on it, just some early thoughts. And we're going to be doing a lot of live streams next week for that AFC Championship game. Thank you to everyone who called in, who commented. Appreciate all of you guys who tuned in, listened live, as well as those who tuned in the archive version of the podcast. Definitely appreciate all of you guys. I'm going to get out of here. Enjoy the rest of the NFL playoffs. I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you again for tuning in. I'll talk to you all tomorrow night. Peace out.